All right, and here we go. So, good morning, everybody. Thank you so much for being here today. Thank you for joining us for our September Student-Centered Learning Network meeting. Whether it's your first meeting with us ever, or if you've been with us before, we want to thank you for being here. And if you haven't already, please take the opportunity to introduce yourself. Uh, Inside of the chat there, you will see that tiny URL on the screen, and you'll also find that in the chat as well, where you can access today's agenda for today's meeting. I want to introduce myself. My name is Tim Leister. I serve as part of the educational technology team at IU13. On the screen, you can see the other members of our great leadership team around the network. These folks have been highly involved with setting today's schedule and getting a lot of the events set up for this school year. So there's other folks too that are new to our group that I haven't got a chance to even put on the slide yet. So we'll be adding them to future meeting slides as well. But really excited for this group and the direction that we're taking our student-centered learning network. And just as an overview of this morning, you can see this again on your agenda as well. But these are kind of the focus areas for today's agenda. We're going to get a little bit of an update about kind of where the student-centered learning community of practice has been and where it is heading. We're going to ask you to give us a little bit of an idea of your vision for the future of education, because that's probably why many of you are here today, is to think about the possibilities of education and what education could be. So we're going to ask you to do a little brainstorming around that idea. We're excited to have our guest presenter today, Dr. Michael Snell, who's going to share a little bit about his experiences around the idea of administration and leadership and how that can drive change within organizations. And then we're going to kind of move towards some breakout discussions before we finish with some updates about some site visits that are happening around the state. So since we're talking about kind of what the network is and why we're here, this has always been our mission and vision for our group, is to bring together educators who are looking for innovative practices around student-centered learning. So we're hoping that this network will continue to grow, but also will continue to be an active place for you to make connections with other people who are working through some of the same challenges that you are, or are looking for ideas about how to get over some of the hurdles that you're currently facing. So for the past year, we've used the network as an opportunity to showcase school districts and IUs around the state who are doing innovative student-centered learning practices. And we want to continue to do that, but also kind of get our hands dirty with this a little bit as well and start to talk about how we can institute some of those changes in our local area too, by making some connections with other people, as well as going to see some of these things in action. So we're trying to move our network from just a virtual experience for you to hear about stories to make it an active experience as well, both in a virtual setting like this, but also in-person events as well, as we're going to continue to try to grow those types of events that are happening around the state. If you have colleagues that haven't registered to be part of our network yet, that URL is on there and it's also on the agenda. We send out monthly newsletters with some of the information that we talk about in our network meetings, but also try to keep you updated as to what events are happening around the state in between our different meetings as well. All right, so with that, I'm excited to pass it over to my colleague Megan Smith, who's going to get us started out this morning with a little bit of an activity around sharing your vision of education. So Megan?
Thanks, Tim. This is why we're all here, right? Thinking about why we are in education and bringing the students at the center, but also making sure that we are sustaining that and it's attainable for us. So I want you to put your dreamer hat on for right now. Think about the students that are at the center of your world, or think about your education. What are the things that you hope for education? What is your vision? Let's pretend that there are no limitations, but I want you to think about, what do you believe that students truly need? What should learning feel like? What should it look like? What should it lead to if you were to go into your ideal school? So what we're going to do is we're going to go to that Padlet on the agenda. And before we get over there, I'm going to share a little bit about what that'll look like. Up at the top, it'll give you directions. So there are sentence starters for you. Students should be able to, and learning should. There are a few places that you can add your thoughts. So if you have a specific sentence starter or thought that you want to add to, you can go to that plus sign where the yellow arrows are. Or you could also go to the plus sign down at the very bottom right, and then you can shift things around as you need to as well. The directions up at the top give you everything that you need. You're going to type in your response about your vision for education. It may prompt you to add your name. I think there's like an anonymous panda or something along those lines that you could put in there if you'd like. And then you're going to continue as many times as you'd like. We're going to take a few minutes to just think through what our vision is and to write those notes in there. And then we're going to take a few minutes to read through and heart. So I'm going to give you about 3 minutes to write, and then I'll stop and then give you another 3 minutes to look through. So what we're going to do is click on that Padlet in your agenda. Thank you, Erin, for putting that in the chat also. And I'm going to invite you to turn your camera off if you would like to, because if you're anything like me and like get all up close to the camera as you're typing, that gets awkward. So feel free to turn off your camera. Take about 3 minutes to answer the question, what is your vision? Go ahead. You have about 1 more minute to finish writing your responses. All right, if you are still typing, go ahead and continue to type. If you have finished your response, now is the fun part. Now you get to go and scroll through, and thank you, Tim, for demonstrating that. You're going to scroll to the left and right instead of up and down to be able to see all of the different responses. And this is the really fun part, to see what education could be and what we can make it. So if there's something that you agree with, go ahead and hit that heart button. I'm going to give you about 2 minutes, 3 minutes to look through, read as many as you'd like. I'm already smiling at so many of these. So while you're reading through, what should be happening is that the ones with the most upvotes or likes should be moving to the top. So if you're looking at which one is the most popular, which one do we most agree with as a team, all the way over on the left-hand side, if you're scrolling over, it's going to be populating those most popular ones. That's not to say that the others are not beneficial, but this is our common goal or common vision as we're thinking about student-centered learning. So in here, we're seeing things that tie in with our blueprint that we're going to talk through today, tie in with those components of student-centered learning that students should be collaborating. There should be problem solving. They should have voice and choice. And they should be part of the learning process and be able to direct their own learning, that it should be authentic and relevant, have lots of great opportunities for that meaningful learning experience. I know those were the ones that my kids come home and talk the most about. And those are the ones that I'm so excited to hear about too. And like their eyes light up and the teacher's eyes light up. So thank you for sharing that information. This will help to drive our conversations as we are talking about what student-centered learning means for us and how we get to that and support each other to get to that point. So I will be reading through all of those at some point today. That will stay open for you if you would like to continue through and check those out as well. So our next thing to think through is, okay, we are talking about the future and our vision. How do we actually make this happen? So I think that it'd be really helpful to hear about the history, about where we've come, about where we're going, and how we can help to make this happen. So I'm going to pass that over to Ken Zimmerman, who is our resident historian over here, and we'll share some information about the history and where we're going.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Megan. I don't know about resident historian, but we'll go with that. So good morning, everyone. It's a pleasure to be with you this morning. And equally, I'm excited to be able to pull this work together because as you posted on the Padlet, it was so much fun to be able to see all of the different terms of what you're talking about, of what students should be able to do and what we should be able to do with student-centered learning as relevant and authentic learning experiences for our students. And these are all wrapped up within our definition of student-centered learning. So if you haven't heard about our journey thus far and you're brand new to our network, welcome. It is fantastic to have you. We're so excited that you've joined us and that you can be part of this journey along the way. For those of you that have been with us for a while, you know that basically in Pennsylvania Student-Centered Learning started about 2000, 2021, around that time frame when we came together in the state to be able to really look at terms and definitions and have an understanding of when we're talking about student-centered learning as the umbrella. And under the umbrella, we have different environments of online and distance learning to blended learning to personalized learning. We needed to come together and really develop common language. So we spent significant time outlining what is each one of these, what are these terms, and what do they mean when we're talking about student-centered learning in the state of Pennsylvania? What are we truly referring to? So those common definitions were formed. We got some time to be able to share across the state with some stories of different pockets of innovation that were occurring in districts and that are occurring in your districts. And you got an opportunity to be able to share some of those stories. And fast forward to May of 2024, when this network started. So we had our very first launch of the PA Student-Centered Learning Network with the goal and the vision for what Tim shared earlier, to bring us together as a state, breaking down the silos so we're able to see what each other's doing and really share with one another. What are you doing and how did you get to the point of the journey that you're in right now? And what could we do in our districts to be able to take steps to progress in that journey? So you've heard through the years a common language about personalized learning and different networks of personalized learning popping up over the state, all over the state, and districts really focusing in on innovative practices, really focusing in on developing learner-centered practices. And that's what this network is for. It's for you to be able to come together, to be able to truly share with each other your resources and share, even open up your buildings for others to be able to come see. So last year, we launched our site visits. And we started with a few site visits across the state where districts were able to come into this network, share their stories, and then they opened their doors and said, if you want to come experience this, come on over. Come to our district. We'll open up the day, whether half a day, part of a day, a whole day, and you can come and see what we're doing and we can talk and have more of those conversations. So as we continue into this year, we're really excited to be able to continue to have districts open their doors for site visits for you to be able to come and see things. And we also are really going to be focusing on having regional in-person events that supplement the work we're doing here in the network in our statewide community. So with that, we're really under the umbrella of Pennsylvania Student-Centered Learning Community of Practice. It's not a project, it's not an initiative. It is a whole community of practice that started online networking for our statewide community to be able to then break off into regional communities across the state. Because as you know, it's going from one end of our state to the other, there's a lot of miles in between. And so we have some restrictions with geography. So we want to be able to come together in those regions and be able to have regional visits with districts, to be able to have regional events. There might be, you'll start hearing about some student-centered learning summits that are popping up. You'll start hearing more about book studies and things that others are offering. And so we've really been working with each one of the IUs to make sure there is a Pennsylvania Student-Centered Learning point of contact at every single IU to be able to support you in this journey and to be able to support that work in this journey. Last year, we also unveiled our blueprint, and we're going to talk a little bit more about that blueprint and focus in with our network community this year, as Tim shared earlier. And within that, looking at the 5 components to really strengthen our system. So we're pretty excited about that as well. You'll also see that on the next slide, we were able to launch into SAS. So we are on SAS now. This is the official page, just so you understand kind of the structure of where Pennsylvania Student-Centered Learning sits. So it's under PA Smart, and in particularly our STEM and CS in PA. So we're falling under that umbrella, and you can see some of the other projects that are there from computer science in PA, Governor STEM competition, CTOs, STEM the toolkit, as well as the ecosystems. And this is where Pennsylvania Student-Centered Learning lies. So you'll see we have a whole page dedicated to that, that also links to our resource page on OER. We have our OER resource page for you to be able to join and be part of, so that it's a way for you to be able to get resources. Perhaps if you miss one of these meetings, you can get to one of the recordings, the agendas. You can see the things that are being advertised for the different site visits that are out there, and also resource sharing with different ideas and strategies and resources around student-centered learning. So that's available for you as well. The other thing that we're really excited about is what's going on nationally. If you start listening to national organizations and what they're doing and what they're promoting, student-centered learning is really coming in to a specific focus across the nation. So right now, AASA published the Public Education Promise. And within that Public Education Promise, they've developed a future-ready framework for education. And we want you to note that principle 1, there's 5 principles that you can see on the right-hand side. Principle number 1 is prioritizing student-centered learning. Now you can go to this site and you can download the whole report and read through each one of the principles and how they're working in that framework to be able to get to meet the priorities of that particular principle. So we're excited to see student-centered learning taking some national center attention, national stage for center attention, because again, it's advocacy for us as well as resource sharing. And we are stronger together than we are separately on our own. So it's exciting that we can be there to be able to support one another. So again, welcome on the journey. We're excited for a fantastic year of this statewide community that meets quarterly, regional events, site visits, student-centered learning summits as a way to be able to help grow and support you in what you're trying to attain within your district. So welcome on the journey, and we look forward to continuing this year with you. With that, I'll turn it back to Tim.
All right. Thank you, Ken, for that perspective. And one of the items that Ken mentioned was about the student-centered learning blueprint that was developed in the last year and rolled out to you. So again, if you've attended past meetings, you've heard about this before. There are other tools that are associated with the blueprint, a navigator tool, a tool that allows you to take it as a leadership group into your administrative meetings and work through it. So we think because it's so robust and we just rolled it out last year, we want to kind of use that as the basis for many of our meetings this year. Kind of break it down into different components. And those components, as Ken mentioned, are around these 5 different areas: administration and leadership, learning models, curriculum design and development, teaching and learning, and community outreach. So as you're looking at student-centered learning practices in your region, it's very hard to focus on all of these areas all the time every year. So we know if you're looking to just kind of get started in certain areas, maybe there's a focus area for you that you think might be a place to start. We feel all of them are important, and we're going to use them as kind of our guides to highlight different aspects of it as we go throughout our meetings this year. So although there are 5 components and only 4 meetings, we'll kind of pick and choose a little bit as we think through as a team as to what might be most important to you. You will have the opportunity a little bit later on to work in a breakout room around one of these different areas. So as you start to hear conversations going today, think about maybe one of those areas that strikes you as to what might be most beneficial for you in your work and maybe in your district team's work as well. So because it's number 1 on our list, but also we think is extremely important as well, is that the administration and leadership at the top of all of this can really drive some of those innovative changes. And having a cohesive understanding from an administration and leadership level can be really important. So whether you're acting as a current district administrator or serving in some sort of leadership role, you have the opportunity to drive some of these changes as well. But we're really excited today to have Dr. Snell, Dr. Michael Snell with us to share some of his experiences and expertise around this idea of administration and leadership. He's currently serving as the executive director of the Pennsylvania Principals Association and has recently retired from the Central York School District as the superintendent there. So because of his vast array of experiences and the work that was done while he was there at Central York School District, we thought he'd be an ideal person to come and talk with us today. So I'm really happy to introduce Dr. Snell, and I'm going to turn, if you'd like, any screen sharing over to him as he talks through the next portion here. So welcome, Dr. Snell. We're happy to have you with us today.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be with everybody today. Let me attempt to share my screen here really quick. Pull that up. Let me make sure that that's there. Can everybody see the screen? We're good to go? All right, wonderful. I want to talk about 3 things. It's a pleasure to be here. I love you people. I love the idea. We mass customized the system for a good 7 or 8 years before I retired at Central York. We had kids in the wrong grade level. It was just a beautiful opportunity, and I'll just share a little bit about that, but more about the leadership. So today, really quick, 3 ideas in 15 minutes. Excuse me. What are we trying to solve for? Are you institutionalized? And ideas. And so let's go. Let's go. Come on, slide. There we go. So the question I have for anyone out there in this space, and when folks come to me and say, tell me what you did, how did you get started? Why should I do this? My question always begins with, what are you trying to solve for? And as leaders, we have to be able to explain that to a multitude of internal and external partners, right? We got to get the support staff online. We got to get the teachers on board. We have to get the board on board, and we have to go out external to parents and community members. And so I want you to think about what it is that you're doing and how do you very concretely, simply say it. And here are my 2, and I'll just put these up on the screen right now. every time somebody said to me, "What are you doing at Central York, and why are you doing what it is?" I would say it's because of Divergence. And I really wanted to watch the movie series, and I've watched all of them, and the whole it just sort of fits, but it doesn't fit. But I thought like that would be a really cool, like video clip or something to show. But our system doesn't respect Divergence. All of us online could start a cooking class tonight together, all 70, 80 of us. And some of us would learn faster and some of us wouldn't. Some of us just don't like to cook. And some of us, right, but you got to be minimally competent in some things and so forth and so on. Our system has generated to continue to perpetuate what it is that we do. And it doesn't respect the fact that that third grader should really be in fourth grade right now because they are way above grade level. And yet we keep them in third grade because it's teacher convenient. It's administrative convenient, right? And so we're not in the convenient business of principals and teachers. We're in the student business, the learner business. And so I would talk about Divergence, and I'd be in a room full of superintendents, and they would just sort of look at me like I had things coming out of my head. Or the other one I would say all the time, which was really fun, was inertia. The state of doing nothing, moving nowhere, and remaining the same, right? And so people would say, well, what's your biggest problem in your district? And superintendents would bemoan budget this and like and I would just go, it's inertia. And again, people would just look at me and go like, you are not right. And to some degree I wasn't, because ultimately we still retain a large part of what we've done from the Committee of 10 in 1892. Like it's just eerily similar, and it's what everybody expects. It's what they want. And so in this work, I'm just going to give you a couple one-liners that I can remember. When somebody says, why are you doing this? Your answer to them should be, why do you have such low expectations for public education? And then just stop and watch them. Just say nothing. Let silence do the heavy lifting and look at them. Because if all you want is what you had 30 years ago for your kids, you wouldn't accept that from a pair of jeans. You wouldn't accept that from a car. You wouldn't take that answer anywhere. And so the answer when somebody says, why are you being crazy and doing what you're doing? You just simply say, why do you have such low expectations for public education? We could be so much more. And so there are these things around when you're working on this in this space. What is it, and how do you quickly respond to that? And my answers are Divergence and inertia. And they don't have to be one words, but they have to be short and simple, which raises their attention. Like, what do you mean by Divergence? And then you nail it with a great explanation of like, your kid really belongs in fourth grade. And what are we doing right now? For convenience sakes, they're going to do, exploratory work, reinforcement work for the last 3 months of school. No, don't do that. So lesson number one, what are you trying to solve for? Is a really good leadership. Put the team together. Everybody, let's talk about it and be crystal clear and be able to tell the story. Number two would be institutionalized. And the real problem here is I'm institutionalized. You all online are institutionalized. This system is all you know. And so if you watch The Shawshank Redemption as many times as I do, because it's on every weekend, and like I'll watch it and 2 hours later, I'm like, what am I doing with my life? But it was a good movie again for the 14th time this month. There's a scene where they're in the prison yard and Brooks just put a knife to Hayward's neck, if you remember in the library. And they go like, what happened? Why did Brooksy snap? And Morgan Freeman goes into this really great explanation. He's been in here his whole life, and all he knows is this. He's institutionalized. And so, and I show the clip sometimes and I take out all the really bad words. I leave some of but like the really bad words, you got to edit those babies out. But you show this clip, and it really is indicative of who we are. We are institutionalized. All we know is this system. And so what I would suggest to this group is you've got to get people from outside of this group to help you innovate. What ideas can we come up with that aren't in this room here, because this is all we know? I was told to read a book a year ago, which I wish I would have had 10 years ago. It's The Medici Effect by Franz Johansson. And just a couple of ideas. He would say what you're about to do is called single discipline incrementalism. All of us in this single discipline, we're going to try to incrementally change the system. And what he says is you need intersectional innovation. You need to bring in people from outside our business that do things differently with us. And so you leave this directional innovation and you get this intersectional. And what does it mean to innovate in the intersection? So it's just a really good book that fights this institutionalism that we are. And we've got to own it. We've got to realize it. And we've got to invite crazy people, artists. We've got to invite engineers, other people that just break systems into our world and say, how do we really put the kid in the front? How do we really care about the learner and not necessarily about teacher or administrator convenience? Institutionalize, idea number two. Here's idea number 3. Where do ideas come from? Like, do you know? Like, is there a book that you open up? Is there a conference that you attend? Like, where does stuff come from? And so let me just give you a couple of examples. If you swallow chewing gum, it will take 7 years to digest. That's wrong. It's not. Your stomach is full of gases and crazy stuff that will break down steel. Or I don't know, I just made that up. But it doesn't stay there for 7 years, like your mother said, right? Who made it up? Your mother. How about this one? You can't go back into the swimming pool for 30 minutes after you eat. Like somebody that eats 2 hot dogs is going to sink like a brick. No, you might get a cramp. You might get a cramp any day. I get cramps all the time, and it has nothing to do with me eating 2 hot dogs. Guess what happened? Somebody made it up. How about these two? Somebody made them up. And credit to 10 Dintersmith, but here are the guys. This is the committee of 10. It's photoshopped and all of that. Imagine what you could do with AI these days with these 10 folks who said the progression of science should be exactly what it kind of still is today. Any number of things. Who made this up? Like really, the law of the land, somebody made it up in Washington or somebody else, some think tank, somebody said, hey, this is a really good idea. We're going to leave no child left behind. And you know what we did? We took it. As educated, I was guilty as well. We just said, oh, yeah, I guess we can't leave no child. No, somebody made this up. How about this one? I mean, no disrespect to anybody, the author of this fine book, but she made it up. And it's now the system by which I get it, right? We got to evaluate people somehow, some way. But guess what? She made it up. How about this one? Ted Sanders, I think his name was Ted Sanders. 1 year's growth in 1 year's time. As if your baby doesn't grow 1 year's growth, we're going to start stretching him or her. Like, really, where did this idea come from? That we are going to, every kid, no, some kids need to grow 2 years growth. Some kids, God bless them, are only going to grow a half a year just because of everything we know about disabilities and blah, 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 blah. But yet, what do? We accepted it. We moved on with it. Somebody just made it up. So what do I want you to do? Here's the driving thought. Start making things up. Like what? Who are you not to make things up? Like everybody else is making stuff up. And so our time at Central was around, wait a minute. Why do we do it that way? And what if we did it this way? And I read the book Inevitable by Chuck Schwan and B. McGarvey. Maybe you've seen it. I know some people say it's the devil, like anything online is the devil. Let's be honest. But it is a really good book. And when I read the book, I couldn't unknow what I now knew. That's called the curse of knowledge, right? That's a good administrative trick to teach people. Once you know something, you can't unknow it. You can't pretend, well, nobody told me about the bomb scare today. No, I called you at 9 and you did nothing. That's called the curse of knowledge. And once I read the book, I put it down. I had a hard weekend and I said, I cannot go back to work on Monday being the same administrator that I was for the previous 20 some years. It just, no. And so we started slowly through this process of making stuff up. And the last thing I want to share with you is this little ecosystem. There's a bunch of slides. I just got a basic one for you to take a look at and maybe serve as a framework of where you want to go. But this is what we did. We wrote blogs about each one of these little ecosystem pods. And so you have curriculum instruction and assessment. What does it look like in a student-centered environment for curriculum? Everything we did was curriculum mapped K to 12. We could say there are 10 units in Algebra 1. We could say there are 8 units in geometry. And every single step along the way, teachers control, obviously, the way it's always been. But when you let kids run and they can demonstrate the 3 units really quick, they just move on. Why? Everything from K to 12 is in a unit map. And you can track learner progression. That's a crazy curriculum system. How do you start to release the hounds, let the fast runners run, let the average runners run, and those kids, bless their heart, that need extra help, run at their pace and not penalize them for them, not, at a 6th grade level, give them the 8th grade PSSA, excuse my little TED Talk moment there for a second. But wait, like that's really a good part of curriculum. What's instruction? What does it mean to teach? Who is the teacher? When everything that we teach is online somewhere, what is our job? And that's a really great conversation to talk about teachers, learning facilitators. What are they? What does it look like today? Because I can learn anything I want online. And we all do as adults. We just don't let the kids do it, right? I got to fix a toilet. I got to door threshold problem at home. I watched a couple YouTube videos last night. I got this, right? I can do this. What does assessment look like in a student learning center? Because in case you haven't heard, the report card is dead. Nobody should wait 45 days for feedback. There are systems online, learning management systems, all of those kinds of things that can deliver information immediately. What does it look like in a student-centered? How do kids demonstrate their mastery? How do you challenge them to say, here's the unit, you got 2 weeks to do it. These are the 7 assignments you have to do, and you have to come up with a project to show me you know what you know. And then you get out of their way. That's great assessment. Learner work, I love the structured study of student work. What should kids be working on? Go into classrooms and just look at what they're working on. My biggest bane of the existence of all things are word searches. Like if finding a word backwards, diagonally, uphill is good. Like I used to give my kids, I say, bring me your word searches, I'll do them. I forbid you from doing them. But what's really good work? What's good learner work? And what should they be doing? That's a critical piece. The human element, and I always talk about that with technology. Regardless of the iteration of technology, how do we remain insanely human? And we counterbalance that because all through history, technology has evolved and changed, and humans have found the way to manage it, to lead it, and to make life a little bit better. Yeah, there are bad things. There are over 2 million teachers online, right? Some of them are really, really bad, and we have to teach kids that. But there are some that are really, really good. And so this whole notion of how do we remain insanely human, all the while things are going by the wayside of devices and the internet and all of that. And then there's this technology thing that's there. We made this up. No tool teacher. So when I go out and I talk about 3 things here, let me talk to you about technology. Sometimes we're not going to use it. No, we're going to put it away today. We're going to smell glue. We're going to eat Play-Doh. Like, I don't know, whatever. We're just going to do other stuff. And we're going to have fun and we're going to sit in a circle and we're going to talk because today is a no technology day. And sometimes it's a tool. The sum of human knowledge is on that device. And how do we use it as a tool? And sometimes it's a teacher. And when does that happen? And when can a teacher release control and say, you want to learn how to change a door threshold? Here are 3 videos, and I want you to prepare a quick 1-minute summary that you can give me so I can go home tonight and do it. Right? No tool teacher. We just made that up, but that's what we talked about a lot. No tool teacher. Start making things up. And lastly, what are the structures? What are the structures out there? The school day, the school year. I mean, we had kids coming or going, seniors. If you didn't need a full schedule, go get a job. College is expensive. Punch your number, you leave the front door. Your parents allowed you to do that. We have a signature on that baby, and just go do your thing. But all of the rules of you got to take 6 classes, and you probably got ceramics and photography in your senior year. That's not good. Go take a college class, right? Any number of things that you can start to work out in the structures. So this really formed the center. And if you're really going to put the learner in the center of our little ecosystem, what does it mean? What does it look like? How do we go about doing business? And so let me just close and I'm going to answer any questions that you have because I'm done with my TED Talk. What are you trying to solve for? And how do you battle and fight the fact that we're all institutionalized in the system and who might we involve in the journey? And lastly, start making things up that are really good for kids. If the learner is in the middle, you can figure this out and you can make stuff up. So I'm done. Tim, thank you very much. I'll be happy to answer a couple of questions. I might be ahead of schedule, which is good.
That's great. That's great. Thank you so much, Dr. Snell. Really appreciate your thoughts there. I think you gave some people too something to add to their reading list as well. And I would encourage anyone who has a question for Dr. Snell or for any of the ideas that he talked, if you're willing to put them into the chat, or if you're brave enough to come off mute, if you'd like to ask him a question too, we'll give folks a minute or so to do that. And while we're waiting for any questions that we might have, I'd encourage you also to look inside that chat. Some of our members today are putting some great resources in the chat for you to check out also. All right.
Tim,
Yeah.
Pam
Thanks.
here. I just want to affirm Michael's message. And I agree with you, Michael. The Medici effect by Franz Johansson was a game changer for me in terms of thinking about how do you really inform what you need to change without hearing voices from outside the institution. It was a great message, and I loved everything that you had to say about how do we deinstitutionalize ourselves, how do we take away our innocence and actually go after the work. So thanks for bringing that message. It was inspiring and affirming to me. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for your kind words.
All right. Thank you, Pam. And thank you, Dr. Snell. Appreciate you being here today.
Thank you, sir. Thanks for having me.
You bet. All right. So we really hope that his message hits home for you. This work is hard. It can sometimes be messy. Sometimes you feel like you might be the only one that's kind of leading that charge in your area. But I hope you're hearing that the work can be worth it, and you kind of have permission to go out and start to look for those innovative practices and disrupt kind of the status quo there. So we really appreciate his idea behind that idea of administration and leadership. So again, thinking about all of the aspects of our PA Student-Centered Learning Blueprint, we want to kind of shift now to not just that administrative and leadership piece of it, but all of those aspects around that blueprint. So I'm going to share my screen again and take us to kind of the next part of our agenda this morning. Unfortunately, our colleague Joy couldn't be with us today, but Aaron Cummings from Chester County IU is going to get us thinking around these different components of the Student-Centered Learning Blueprint and create some asks of you to do some deep dive thinking this morning. So Aaron?
Perfect. Thank you so much, Tim. So before we dive into the activity, I want to kind of set the stage for you. So we all know that when it comes to student-centered learning and understanding the student-centered learning blueprint, every district and every person is in a different place. Some of you may be very familiar with all of the components or maybe just one of the components, while others might be a little bit newer. And this may even be your first time hearing about the blueprint or understanding any part of it. And that is completely okay. This activity isn't about creating a perfect or polished goal. It's just about kind of starting that thought process. Keep in mind that our focus for today is progress, not perfection. And we want to use this as something that you can continue to refine and build on over time, over the course of our networking meetings, or even as you're working as with your team back at your district. So in a moment, I'm going to go over a very, very quick overview of each of our system components. Then what you are going to do is select one component that resonates most with your district's current needs. You're going to be working on creating a goal surrounding this particular component. I want you to remember, we can't take everything on at once. The power of this work is choosing one piece of the puzzle and kind of committing to that particular piece for now. I'm not saying that whatever you pick today is going to be what you have to continue working on, but it's just a starting point. So our goal today is to kind of start to guide your district or your school's focus. In our next couple of meetings, we're going to be revisiting this goal, seeing how it has evolved, what evidence you've been able to capture, as well as the progress that you've been able to make. So looking at our system components, and again, this is a very brief overview. We do have the link to the blueprint, so you're going to have a chance to read it a little bit more in depth. But we have our administration and leadership. This is where we're establishing vision, policies, the resources, and really that culture that is needed to create conditions where SCL can thrive. Our learning models, providing that flexible instructional frameworks, ensuring that we're prioritizing our student needs. This also influences our curriculum and teaching. Curriculum design and development, creating that relevant, engaging, interdisciplinary curricula, ensuring that it's aligned with our student interest, goals, as well as real-world context. Teaching and learning, positioning our teachers as facilitators, as Dr. Snell was saying, who are guiding that inquiry, differentiation, and reflection. We want to make sure that we're enabling our students to take ownership of their own learning. And finally, but not last, community outreach, where we're extending our learning beyond the classroom and really fostering those partnerships within our community. So Tim, if you can open up the goal document. So if you notice, there is a link to the SCL component goal setting document. When you click on this link, it's going to have you use the template. So you'll select use template on the right-hand side, and it'll create a copy for you. So we have our steps here. Notice we have the link to our SCL blueprint where you're going to be able to read more in depth about each of those components. Page 13 is where you're going to want to look. Step 1 is identifying your team members. Who from your district do you think would be beneficial to this team? Administrators, educators, staff, maybe it's even community members. Identify the system component that you really want to start working on. Understanding that if you choose teaching and learning today, perhaps that's not what you're going to continue on after today's meeting. And then you're going to start to write your SMART goal. Again, work in progress. It does not have to be perfect today. This is not something that Tim is going to collect and grade at any point in time. This is for you and for your planning purposes. And finally, I want you to kind of start to think about those anticipated challenges. If you are choosing learning models, what are some challenges that might be in place now that you need to overcome, or you might need to change some things within that system? So we're going to give you about 5 to 7 minutes. I know that's a lot to do in 5 to 7 minutes to start to write your goal. Then what you're going to do is you are going to be going into breakout rooms based off of the component, and we'll come back and we'll talk through that before we select our breakout rooms. Okay, do I have any questions? All right. So it is 9:53. So at 10 o'clock, we're going to be going into our breakout rooms. But we'll come back as a group before we do that. So we'll give you 7 minutes to start working on your document. Okay, so welcome back. Hopefully you were able to get something down. Again, this is not something that we are going to be looking at in any way, shape, or form. This is strictly for you and your district for planning purposes. You'll notice at the bottom of that tab for September 24th, there are some action items that you can think about between today and our next meeting on November 19th. So now what we are going to do, thank you for showing the action items, Tim. So now we're going to start to think about our breakout rooms. And we have some breakout rooms already established, and you're going to be able to select which component breakout room you would like to join. This is not an end-all to be-all decision. If you choose administration and leadership today and decide, you know what, curriculum and design and development works better for my district, that is completely okay. You can change later. So we have our 5 breakout rooms for each of our components: administration and leadership, learning models, curriculum design and development, teaching and learning, and community outreach. You are going to be selecting the breakout room based upon the goal that you created and which component that goal aligned with. I believe we have some direction. Go ahead, Tim. I'll
Yeah,
pass it
thank
on
you,
to you.
Erin, for setting that up. I just wanted to chime in. Unfortunately, Christina and Joy, that were going to facilitate our community outreach group, couldn't be with us today. They had some last minute changes. So I threw it upon Kendi to switch over to that group. So she'll be kind of facilitating that group. And we really encourage you when you get into that breakout room to have some discussions. The facilitators there might have some ideas of some things to talk about, but we really want you to be an active participant and ask some questions of the folks in the room about the areas around these different components. So if we're ready to go, Erin, I can go ahead and open those rooms.
Yes, that would be great. Thank you.
Okay. So you should be able now to self-select your rooms. We're going to stay in those rooms for about 15 minutes or so. And then when we come back together, we'll share out some of those discussions and talk about some steps going forward. So go ahead. If you need any assistance selecting your room, feel free to type it in the chat or come off mute and we can help you enter into your room of choice. All right, we're welcoming you back to our main room today. Thank you for your participation in those different breakout rooms. For some of you, maybe you had a choice to make as to which room you selected. So we wanted to give our team an opportunity to share just a quick 30 seconds or so about some of the conversations that happened around each of those different components. So we'll just go down the list here and we'll start with breakout room number 1, administration and leadership. And if Holly or Jen wouldn't mind sharing a little bit about what was discussed.
Yeah, I'll chime in. I'm going to say first, I think this is the most important of the 5, but I might be a little biased. The reason why I say that is because without the support of administration and leadership, it's very hard to see this as a district school-wide program. They end up remaining little clusters of excellence in single classrooms. Some of the challenges we identified are community and competency-based education that isn't embraced outside by others, as well as having to convert that competency-based education into a traditional model are some of the challenges that we were talking through, as well as teacher buy-in and understanding what student-centered learning looks like.
Great. Thank you, Holly. Over to learning models and Erin.
Yes, so we had some really great conversation and talking about, a lot of the struggles and social challenges that come about when it comes to trying to determine learning models. One comment from Ira Sokol, which I thought was really interesting, is, time is the first technology of school. It is the most controlling and the most damaging. So how can we rethink time and time limits when it comes to students? We had mentioned, doing multi-age classrooms, which I know I was able to see at Manheim Township during one of their site visits, which was really great. Secondary programs without bell schedules, and thinking about adapting our learning models to really meet our students' needs.
Great. Thank you, Erin. How about curriculum design and development, Megan or Melissa?
So we had a small but mighty group of people who are kind of brainstorming how do we best support each other, and we're thinking about curriculum design and development because it sounds so small but is so very big. So thinking through where do we start versus how do we get it to be interdisciplinary. So we were brainstorming a lot of different ideas for where to start. How to get some structure for thinking through these are our vision, these are our goals for the district. Someone had shared a 5C structure that was really beneficial. And then how do you get people on board to continue that work with you? At the end of our conversation, I had reminded everybody, which I'm going to remind everybody here too, that you have that point of contact for student-centered learning in every one of your IUs. And that is down at the bottom of our agenda in the wrap up and feedback, which I'm sure I'm taking someone's thunder later. But if you need someone to brainstorm with, like we were talking through, those are going to be really great people to just bounce ideas off of and connect with to talk about that conversation.
Great. Thank you, Megan. Teaching and learning, Melissa or Shanna?
So we had a great discussion with a nice large group of different level educators. We had some assistant superintendents, some building administrators, some instructional coaches. So we looked at the portrait of a learner and how that has made that shift from teaching and learning. We have looked at, as instructional coaches, making instructional just micro moves. Let me change one thing, but that could change a bigger picture. So if I change make a small shift here with an instructional practice in my classroom. Now that's impacting my grading because my grading needs to reflect those instructional micro changes. We also discussed, kind of building that capacity with your building level admins. What does that look like? And the possibility of doing or having support for school districts for like, what does this shift in teaching and learning look like in a social studies classroom versus a math classroom, and how as intermediate units, maybe we could support that work as well.
All right. Thank you, Melissa. And our last group filling in today, Kendi from Community Outreach.
Hey, everybody. So in our room, we had a few IU POCs as well as, and I hope they don't mind because we probably interrogated them the entire time, Autumn and John from Burrell School District in Westmoreland County. They are doing some amazing things in their district around community partnerships. They have a senior seminar course where the seniors are getting to work alongside people within their local community, getting lots of experiences to help them kind of figure out who they are, where they're headed, what they're interested in, what they're not interested in, as John said. And then also at the 7th and 8th grade level, they kind of did away with their traditional specials and have instituted something called studios, where I believe, and Autumn, correct me if I'm wrong on this, I believe they said they are every 9 weeks, the students get to select a new studio. And within there's a learning opportunity, a learning experience that the students are having, but integrated into it is community partnerships. So they're having their community, local businesses getting involved. If it's a project around setting up their own store, they're working with some local people in their industry, and then they're making money. They're actually doing the work, and then they got to like donate to some organizations. So they're just not talking the talk, they're walking the walk. They've taken that idea of how can we use our community partners and integrate it into our curriculum, and it's a requirement within those studios. So, and students get choice in the studios that they're attending, which I thought was so cool. So they are doing some really great things in response to what they were seeing as apathy. Like students weren't super engaged. Even some of the teachers weren't as engaged in learning and operating within silos. And they really wanted to break down those walls and do something really innovative and awesome. And we were pressuring them to host a site visit to tell us more about this in the future. So cross our fingers that Becky can pull something off for us with them, because we would love to get out there and see it in action.
All right. Thank you so much, Kendi. A perfect segue into kind of the last portion of our time together today, and that is talking about the idea of site visits. We're really hoping to encourage more of them. We had a few that happened last year, and we're hoping this school year we can grow that. So whether you're interested in potentially hosting a site visit or just going to visit some other schools to see what's happening, we would love for you to participate in that, because hearing the stories and hearing the ideas versus seeing them in action, there's a real difference there. So there are 2 that we have lined up, and one is coming up first here in November is going to be our first meeting, our first site visit. And Robin Philman from IU6 has some background knowledge and was willing to share a little bit about the one that's happening at Clarion Limestone High School.
Yes, hi, hello everyone. We have a very small rural high school that graduates less than 100 students, but they have, I want to say, built out this amazing program with student manufacturing. So students are actually taking the role of advertising, making connections with businesses. They are providing resources to businesses, metalwork, photography, videography, just they really don't have a limit. It is all student driven. The teacher really facilitates that learning, and for a small rural community, it's really something that's it's really something that we don't see very often. So I'd love for you to come and join us. It's we're outside of Clarion, Pennsylvania. If you've heard of Clarion University, that's now Penn West. We're right off of 80. They are going to have an open house. They're going to entertain us on that day on November 3rd, and they're also going to be entertaining the entire community, just to bring awareness to student manufacturing.
Wonderful. That sounds like an exciting opportunity to visit. Thank you, Robin, for sharing that. The other one is December 3rd. It just got organized recently. That's going to be hosted by Northwest Tri-County IU5 and Warren County School District from 10 to 2. We're hoping next time and in our newsletters, we're going to be able to give you some more information about what's going to be happening at that site visit coming up. Just a reminder.
I could
So,
speak to it.
can you? Oh,
I'm
thank
Warren
you.
County School District, so
Wonderful.
just real brief because I know we're at time.
That's okay.
We do have it's going to be at the Warren County Career Center, but we're going to highlight multiple programs. We're highlighting the Career Center, of course, but we have a Strive program, which is actually built around the needs of our high needs special education students, and they learn life skill type of careers, and it's really neat what they're doing. It's a very unique program. We also are going to highlight our virtual program and our STEM Academy. And our STEM Academy, everything here at this building is competency based, and we are working with dual enrollment partnerships, community partnerships, and we're doing a bunch of really cool things within that program as well, with a flight simulator, a TV studio, and all these really cool things that engage our students. So I know we're really far away from most people in this state, but I would highly encourage you to come out. We would love to see you. And the culinary arts program is going to provide us lunch. So
Thank you, Misty, for chiming in and sharing that. Again, we'll be sure to get out information about that. The folks that are hosting these visits would really like to know in advance who's coming. So on our agenda, you'll find a spot too for you to fill out a registration at least a week in advance, just to help them plan appropriately, where you can fill out, select the site visit so they can know who's going to be coming. Another one I want to add and bring to your attention that Shanna brought to my attention just this morning, so it didn't make it into our slide deck, is a book study opportunity that's coming up. And Shanna, you want to share a little bit about that?
Sure. It is a 4-part book study. We actually are going to have Ryan Rajewski and Greg Bear be the actual speakers during our Zoom meetings with them. It'll be an hour long over 4 months, so 4 different sessions of an hour, where they actually talk about things like curiosity, creativity, what Fred Rogers did, and how they're kind of building off of that. If you don't know who these people are, they work with Remake Learning, and actually Greg Bear's wife, you might know Ling personally because of Remake Learning, but we actually have them doing all of that with us. And then for the second hour on those times, I'll be running an application portion of this book during this book study. So the flyer that I have here has a QR code and it has an interest form. That's so we can see if people outside of our area, our IU, are interested. And then from there, we'll send you in event documentation so you can sign up for it. But it's a really big and amazing opportunity, and their book really pushes student-centered learning and breaking down the 4 walls of education. So if you're familiar with Remake Learning, this is definitely a book that you should be reading and you should be utilizing.
All right. Thanks so much, Shanna. All right, so hopefully you're seeing some opportunities here. We've mentioned to you before about our OER Commons resource group. We'd love for you to continue to join in there and contribute to that. So there's lots of different ways to get involved. Hopefully you made some connections in your breakout rooms. It's something we're going to continue to revisit as we have our future meetings. So our next one coming up in November on the 19th. Again, we'll be focused on another aspect of the blueprint, but we want to also give you an opportunity to revisit those goals you focused on today, as well as to reconnect with the groups in that breakout room to continue some of those conversations. So we did pretty well on time, only a few minutes over. So again, we want to thank you for being here today with us. Appreciate your contributions, appreciate you taking some time out of your schedule to be here. Our team will stay on after we finish today. If you have any questions for us, it was mentioned before from Megan about your POC in your area. Please make sure, if you haven't already, check out the point of contacts list for your region. And the email address and name associated with it will be on there if you have any questions for somebody you would like to connect with locally around the idea of student-centered learning. So thanks again for being here today. We hope to see you when we reconvene again in November. Bye, everybody.